Okay, can we begin? Can you all hear me? Yeah, ऐकू येतं? Can you all hear me? All right. Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Soham, and I will be walking you all through process. Uh, just to give you all a heads up, I am not a big fan of presentation, so you will find my presentation to be short, succinct. But since I'm a recent student, I graduated in 2021. I've done my PhD about. It's lagging. They're saying it's lagging. All right. Sorry about that. So yeah, what I was saying is I recently have graduated with a PhD in pharmaceutical health outcomes and policy from the University of Houston. To give a little bit more background about myself, I completed my Bachelor's of Pharmacy from Bombay College of Pharmacy back in 2016. Waited for a year in India, did a couple of jobs, also did a couple of online courses on Coursera and a couple of other platforms. uh, Applied for a PhD program and got into it, flew to the US in 2017. I was in Houston, which is based in Texas, southern USA. I have lived in Houston for little over 5 years. After that, I moved to North Carolina, and I will be walking you through the entire process, which a lot of you might still be aware. But one thing I can definitely assure you at the end of the session, uh, I will definitely talk about a lot of other things, much more than just the entire application process. Things like finding the right university, choosing the right location, also right from housing to payment of fees, and any other student you might have, because I have a recent experience and I will be more than happy to help you guys. So, Pritam, talking a little bit about the scope of pharmacy in India versus the US. Um, One thing I can say for sure, for a early career graduate, the scope abroad is slightly more, because you will have more different diverse job roles. Also, more pharmaceutical companies, because a lot of R&D and research is done in the US, and a lot of that research is carried forward in India. Uh, the West is definitely better for early careers. The pay is higher if you also look at the cost of living versus how much you get paid initially. And I'm only talking about early career. If you want to go to the US, come back to India after 5, 8 years, you will definitely have a good scope back in India as well. Again, there are also more collaboration opportunities in the US when you're learning, right? You need a collaboration with, say, doctors or with healthcare professionals or pharmacists. You will have a lot more opportunities in the US, because a lot of these universities have tie-ups with hospital systems where you can also interact with doctors and get inputs from them. Apart from India, there are also quite a few, countries apart from US which have good quality education. including Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and parts of Europe. So a lot of you might be aware of the basic requirements for GR for to apply to the US, and these are the acceptable exams. One is the graduate record examination or the GRE, which is nowadays not mandatory after COVID because at the time of COVID there was a lot of issue with respect to scheduling the exam, so on and so forth, and that's why a lot of universities have waived off GRE. But again, GRE has made a return in around 2022, I would say, where a lot of the reputed universities do require you to give a GRE, but a lot of universities have also waived it off. You can either give TOEFL or IELTS. Both are considered equivalent exams. Well, I feel TOEFL is more widely accepted in the US, whereas IELTS is more widely accepted in Europe and Canada. But IELTS is also considered in the US as well. But TOEFL is just more widely given. Next, we will talk a little bit about the GRE. We are talking about the general GRE examination and not the subject-specific GRE. If that is of interest, you can reach out to me later and we can talk about it in detail. Basically, GR is nothing but a standardized test, which is an admission requirement for most graduate schools in the United States. The exam aims to measure your verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, critical thinking, and analytical thinking skills. The cost to take the GRE right now is about $220, which amounts to around, I would say, 18,000 Indian rupees, 18 or 19. Yeah, correct. It's 18 or 19,000 Indian rupees. So to start off, the test has about 6 sections. The first section is called the analytical writing section, where you basically have to write 2 essays and 2 topics will be given to you. One is an issue task and one is an argumentative task. Again, I will not go into the details. If anybody is interested in how to prepare for the GRE or TOEFL, you can reach out to me and I will help you with that as well. But all of these details are available online on the ETS website and you can go through these. We will focus this session mostly on admission and life in the US. So yeah, please feel free to ask me any questions that you might have. So this is the basic structure of the exam. The exam starts with a writing section. It's called the analytical writing section, where you have to write 2 essays and you are given 30 minutes for task. Uh, uh, Then you have a verbal quantitative. This is not fixed. So you can have a verbal quantitative, or you can have a verbal quantitative. And the 5th section is an additional section where you can see it's an unscored section. It is just an experimentative section for ETS. So, and the 5th section can either be verbal or can be quant. That can be anything. Just depends on your luck, or just depends on your luck. Again, a score of 300 or more in GRE is supposed to be ideal. If you score anything above a 305 or a 310, it will increase your chances of getting into a reputed university. To be very honest with you, anything below a 300, I would suggest you to reappear for the exam. Because next is TOEFL, or the test of English as a foreign language. I am not going to talk about IELTS here because it is an equivalent exam. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. And the structure of IELTS is pretty similar to TOEFL, just the scoring system is different. So the test of English as a foreign language is a standardized test which is used to measure the English language ability of non-native speakers like us. They still consider Indians as, unfortunately, as non-native speakers who wish to enroll in English-speaking universities. So the TOEFL IBT, as it is called, is you can get 120 total points, and in the entire examination, and 30 points per section. And there are four sections, which are reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Uh, I will go into each of these sections briefly. So first is basically your reading section, where you are given a passage, a very, very easy passage to read. There are a couple of those. I think there are 3 to 4 passages you have to read and answer a bunch of questions, which are very easy. Um, if you've given your ninth or 10th standard English exams and you had these passages are going to be very similar. Uh, are going to be very similar to those. The next is the listening section, where you will be given a pair of headphones and you will hear a conversation between two friends or two relatives or two people basically about something like a very general topic about how was your day, what you're going to eat today, or um, which car do you drive, which is your favorite color. Basically, it just tests your ability to hear and understand English. And at the end of that particular conversation, you will be asked a bunch of questions, and you should be able to answer to those questions. Again, it's a very basic English. Um, you're just trying to gauge your ability to understand English. The third is the speaking section, which is where a lot of people get stressed about. But again, there is nothing to be worried about here. You will be, again, you're given a topic, a very general topic like describe the city you live in, or describe your family, or which is your favorite animal and talk about it for 30 seconds. So you should be able to respond to these questions in a succinct and you should be able to articulate your thoughts properly in English without a lot of pauses, uh, having uhs and oohs and without basically taking a lot of pauses and without using a lot of filler words. That is all you need. And it's totally fine if you don't make perfect sense when you are responding to these questions. All they check for is there is all they want to make sure is there is no stammering, there is no stuttering, your speech is very clear. And again, this is a very important section because a lot of universities, when they provide specifically teaching assistantships, they look at your speaking score of TOEFL. If your score is above 25 out of 30, your chances of getting a teaching assistantship are high because this is where you will be required, because this is a job where you will be required to interact with a lot of students, talk with a big crowd. So it requires a good ability to speak. The last section is the writing section, where again you will be given a passage um, which is sorry, the where you will be given a topic to write an essay on, and the essay will be graded. Uh, Next, we will go briefly over your approach to admissions, what you should be focusing on. So basically, your admission depends on the following criteria, and I forgot to add one more criteria, which is the letter of recommendation or the LOR. So the first is your GRE score. Anything above 300 or 305 is a great score. Your TOEFL or IELTS score. TOEFL, anything over 100 is considered a good score. If you have scored anything below 90, I would suggest reappear for the exam because that will significantly reduce your chances of getting into a good university or even qualifying for any sorts of teaching assistantships or research assistantships. Your IELTS score, I think anything above 6 out of 10 bands is good. Your statement of purpose. Again, I feel probably one of the most important documents here. Your statement of purpose is nothing but your story. You have to somehow convince the admission committee that you are the right candidate for that particular course. Here, I would suggest to not take any counselor's help or any professional's help to completely write your SOP. What you can do is definitely seek help from a professional, but the first draft of the SOP has to be your story. You should be the one writing why you want to do a particular course because nobody can tell your story better than you yourself. Because a lot of these counselors or professionals use a fixed template. and the admission committee is easily able to pick out what is a fixed template, what is copied and not original. So I would suggest please focus on the statement of purpose, specifically if you have a relatively lower GRE, TOEFL, or academic scores. Uh, yeah, and I'm again happy to help you with any with it as well. Next is your letter of recommendation, which I haven't mentioned here. Most universities require 3 letters of recommendations, but there are universities that also require only 2. Make sure you take recommendations from professors uh, who are good to you, and you are in good books of those professors. Please make sure you're in good books with that professor. Um, and again, it's not necessary that the professor has to be a principal or a more experienced professor. You can take a letter of recommendation even from an assistant professor or a professor that is new or just maybe 2 or 3 years into the profession. It is totally fine. Nobody cares. Nobody in the US cares who your professor is or what sort of experience he or she has. They don't even know the professor. So, to whoever that tells you that you need to take the letter of recommendation from the principal or someone who is very experienced, that is not true. That is not true. They just need somebody who is a professor who has spent time with you, taught you to talk good things about you. Also, if possible, try to you can request the professor to show you what they have written, just to make sure. Yeah, that's about it for the LOR. Next is your percentage or GPA in BPharm. Again, a GPA about over 6.5 or about 7 will work great in your favor. Anything lower than that, you might want to work on your GRE or your TOEFL or your SOPs or your extracurriculars and your publication work if your GPA is lower than the range I mentioned. Next is your extracurriculars and co-curriculars. So, with respect to co-curriculars, if you had any experience with, um, your say organizing events in college, or you were the GS or the cultural secretary, sports secretary, or in my case, I was a student editor in Pharma Times. Things like that will definitely help, and that just shows that not only you are a good student, but you can also do other things, and that is you have also displayed leadership skills that will definitely matter because they look out for students who can manage big organizations, talk, be a good leader, mentor, specifically for PhD courses. They look for students who can mentor the new students. Last but not the least is research work or any published paper. Again, this is not mandatory for masters, but if you are planning to apply for a PhD, this will definitely go a long way if you have presented at a conference. If it's an international conference where you've traveled to Europe or US or anywhere abroad, it will go a very, very long way. But if not, it's fine. Even if you have papers submitted at any of the local conferences, be it your RX here or Avishkar or any of the conferences in India, that will also definitely help. Again, as I said, I have just given you all an overview. Uh, Please feel free to shoot any questions that you might have. Absolutely anything under the sun is fine. Just to start your brainstorming process, I've just jotted down a couple of bullet points on which you might have questions like location, research assistantships or teaching assistantships, employment in the USA after your job, after your course, how the visa process works, how difficult or hard is it to find an H-1B or a work visa, anything about on-campus jobs, anything regarding travel within the US or travel between India and the US, anything with respect to foreign exchange or visa, you please feel, or even finding roommates or finding a house to stay there, an apartment to stay there. How are the different cities in the US or which is a better city to live in? Please feel free to ask me any questions that you might have. Thank you. Do you all have any questions? Do you all have any questions? Hmm? Are we taking any questions online? Are we taking any questions online? चलिए दिखेगा कैसे? ये मेरा होगा.
Just Pharmacad का Pharmacad. Comments, like chat. So नहीं है अभी तक कुछ.
Okay, yeah, if you all have any questions, please feel free to post any questions that you might have in the chat here. Um, I can wait for a couple of minutes. Yeah, please. Uh, as far as the location goes, Boston, yes, is a great place to go. Only because there are a lot of universities there. Uh, just that it's very expensive. Boston is one of the most expensive cities you can live in. Uh, But if you are in a even in a decent university in Boston, like MCPHS, Northeastern University, those are not great universities, I would say. So ranking wise, there are universities that are much better than those. But since it is in Boston, that is the USP, that is the selling point. There are lots of pharma companies in Boston, lots of collaboration opportunities. So, if that is what is your goal, I think you can definitely aim for universities like Northeastern or MCPHS or others. Um, okay, so couple of things. If you are just looking at the cost aspect, the Northeast is expensive. So New York City is expensive. New Jersey is expensive. If you live in Boston, it is expensive. Philadelphia or anything in Pennsylvania is also going to be expensive. As you go south, I was in Texas. So Texas was relatively cheaper as compared to some of the northern states and cities because we did not have state tax and the accommodation housing was much cheaper in Texas as compared to much the northeastern states. But and again, if something you want to consider for your health reasons or whatever, it is also extremely cold northeast. So if you go to Boston, 7 to 8 months out of the 12 months, you are going to have extreme cold. The 2 months there will be moderate cold. There will be a month or two where there will be hot weather. So consider that as well. If you are somebody who absolutely cannot tolerate the cold weather, or if you have health issues due to cold weather, something you might want to consider. So, I was in Houston, University of Houston in Texas. Uh, I liked it, but again, uh, not somewhere I wanted to settle in the long run. I wanted to come to Northeast because there are a lot more opportunities there. Texas is great. I mean, the universities are great in Texas. Very good. University of Houston, University of Texas at Austin, University of Texas Health Science Center in Houston. These are some of the really good universities in Texas for pharmacy courses. But there are no jobs there. So I moved to North Carolina, which is which is northeast, but the weather, the cost of living, etc., the quality of life is better in North Carolina as compared to Boston or New York, and it's just 1 hour flight away. So, and in the US, people travel quite a lot, like students and young professionals. It's very normal. It might not be as normal in India, but students travel, not students. After finding a job, people literally travel every 2 3 months. So I have a question here. How are the universities in Raleigh? Can you be a little more specific about which university? Is it NCSU, North Carolina State University you're talking about? Aniket? Even in Raleigh, we also have rather close to Raleigh, we have University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, which as per rankings is the number one university, and it is pretty good. The program is really good. It is very hard to get into UNC Chapel Hill, but the program is extremely good. If that answers your question. Even Duke University is very reputed. If you are considering any pharmacy related course or any healthcare related course at Duke University, that is also in the same area as UNC Chapel Hill. Uh, so yeah, overall Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill area is very good for any academic course you want to do. Pittsburgh University is good. University of Pittsburgh is very good. There are other universities like Duquesne University, you might have heard. A lot of students from BCP go to Duquesne University. Duquesne, Duquesne. A lot of students from from BCP go to Duquesne University because Duquesne provides full funding, full scholarship. So if that is something you are looking for, Duquesne provides full scholarship to all students. They get. It's in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh again is a slightly expensive city, but a good city to live in. Even weather-wise, slightly milder than Boston. Still cold, but a beautiful city. Cost of living is higher, not higher than Boston, but it's high. Baltimore, this is interesting because University of Maryland, Baltimore is excellent. It's a very good university, but Baltimore as a city is not safe. To, to be uh, uh, to be very honest with you, if you are considering to go to Baltimore, go, but go at your own risk, because the university is good, no doubt. It is one of the top five or top 10 University of Maryland, Baltimore. But please make sure that you don't go outside at night because I'm sure you've read in the news and everywhere. Gun laws in the US are very lenient. And Baltimore is one city where crime is pretty rampant. Even I have seen crime in Baltimore because right while I was walking right in downtown Baltimore. So yeah, one of the if you want to go, you can go. I mean, University of Baltimore is partly it's in main city, partly it's outside the main city. So if you have a bunch of friends on whom you can rely on, please go. And I have friends who are in University of Maryland, Baltimore. All of them have lived in Maryland, Baltimore safely for 5, 6 years. By God's grace, nothing has happened to them. But if you look at this, just look at the statistics. Baltimore is one of the unsafe cities in US. Not trying to scare you, just trying to give you real facts, which nobody would tell you. Couple of courses, including there are courses around biostatistics, bioinformatics. The course which I did, health economics and outcomes research. There is regulatory affairs. There is pharmacoepidemiology. There is something called as health services research. Uh, and a lot of these courses come under the umbrella term pharmacy administration. But a lot of universities have have different programs where the research focus is different. Yes, the umbrella term is pharmacy administration, but there are multiple streams under pharmacy administration. Not all these courses. So your biostatistics, bioinformatics, doesn't come under pharmacy administration. The rest which I spoke about will. Feel free to ask any questions you have regarding travel or jobs or even finding roommates or finding accommodation to stay, anything you might have. Accom- Accommodation, sorry, jobs. Uh, not all universities, but a lot of universities in Boston do. If you are, this is, that is where you're planning to go. Uh, Boston, one very good thing about Boston University, any university in Boston, is you have a lot of internship and co-op opportunities right when you're working. So, for example, you have a 2 years master's course and you're done taking all the courses in 1.5 years. You can take more courses if you want. Um, so basically, how the way the process works is to complete your master's, you need to complete 30 to 35 credits. And every course is worth 3 to 4 credits. So even if you take 3 credits in one semester, sorry, 3 courses in one semester, you end up taking 9 credits, right? Minimum requirement in most universities is taking 9 credits. But for example, you want to complete your course early, which is not advisable uh, just because that will put a lot of pressure on you. एक साल में complete करना है तो लोग करते हैं मतलब every semester they take 15 credits and 2 semester में खत्म करते हैं last semester में they do a co-op and or some project work or something, but you can do it because there will be some courses which are mandatory, like out of the 30 there will be 10 or 15 mandatory courses and the rest 15 are something called as elective courses which you can select जहां पे तुम्हारा interest है, what interests you, that you can select. And in total, to get your master's degree, you need to have 30 credits, 30 or 35, depending on the university. Uh, and again, in thesis track, you will have to complete those 30, 35 credits and a project. In non-thesis track, it is only those 30, 35 credits. Non-thesis. Uh, and there you can also, if your professor allows, most students in NEU, things like universities like NEU and all, last semester may they do internships or co-ops. And if they're lucky and the company likes your work and everything, more often than not, they convert your co-op into a full-time position. So after graduation, you don't go through that stress of finding a job, then you have limited days to find a job, all that. So that is the advantage of living in Boston. Although the university is not that great, the location is very good. It's good, to be very honest, any universities that is easy to get in, you hear so many students going to NU. So data says that it is easy to get in. So if it's easy to get in, um, it may not be the best, academically the best. Now, academically, course-wise, University of Maryland, Baltimore has much better course where you will learn more. But job opportunities you might have in Boston more. So, see, NU में PhD बहुत कम इसमें है. So if you want to do a PhD later, usually students go to universities like Texas में है, or फिर you go to University of Maryland, Baltimore, where there's a lot of hardcore research, or universities like UNC Chapel Hill in North Carolina, where I am staying right now. Because lot of hardcore research, lot of good professors. मतलब अभी you must have read that book फोए का मेडिसिन केमिस्ट्री का, उसका ऑथर हमारे प्रोफेसर मेडिकल का इन यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ ह्यूस्टन था. सो यू विल फाइंड सच रेप्यूटेड पीपल जिनसे तुम लोग एक्चुअली स्किल्स सीख सकते हो या research सीख सकते हो, those people you'll find in other universities and not in places like in NEU or all that. So if you are somebody who wants to do that kind of research, if you are very ambitious or driven, something you got to think. But having said that, as I said, Boston is an excellent place for finding jobs. Not the most excellent place if you want to live long term. Because cost of living is, I just had a friend yesterday night I spoke with. He and his wife are living in Boston right now and are thinking of moving to North Carolina because the living expense is too high. They are only paying 600 or $800 per month for parking. So they were considering moving to North Carolina and were asking me, how is the situation there and things like that. So something you may want to consider long term when probably you get married or you have a family or which you want to take care of. Boston, I feel right now, or New York City, not the best place to start off as a family. Well, when if you're thinking of settling in the US, that is something you might think of coming back 10 years after you have a lot of money saved. Then you can live a good quality of life in New York City. नहीं तो क्या है मतलब as a student and as a early career professional, your quality of life honestly will not be that great in New York or Boston. As somebody who's into early profession and later if you want to get your parents or have them travel with you, not the best place because they won't be able to tolerate the Boston cold weather in Boston. Then you will have to only call them in specific months. Then your time should match. And if you're living with roommates, that's another issue after finding a job. So that's a very long-term thought. But since I am in that phase, I'm able to share. I'm done with my course. I'm working for almost 2 years. I got a job in North Carolina. And honestly, while I was studying, my I always wanted to experience life in Boston, and because I've also heard a lot about it. I hear a lot of pharma companies and all of that. But there was this Thanksgiving break when I visited one of my friends in Boston, and I just saw how grass is not always green on the other side. The situation like that is that, and in winters it gets really cold. It's very hard to go out without your jackets and gloves and everything. It gets dark at around 4 p.m. Uh, and imagine getting dark at 4 p.m. for around 6 months or more. Uh, you guys have so far maybe not experienced this living in India because हमारे यहाँ, I feel it's the most ideal time when it gets dark around 7:30. But when it gets dark at 4, it gets very depressing. Specifically, if you are somebody who wakes up late in the morning. Not a lot of people wake up late, but I experienced this because I went on a holiday there and I woke up late that day and my day was just 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours. And that's when I decided I'm like, no, maybe not the best place. You can always travel, but live in a state where it's cheaper and you can afford a bigger house, a newer construction. Well, again, these things won't matter to you as a student, but when you find a job, when you want to settle with your partner or whoever, these things will matter, right? You will want to have a good place to live, a safe place to live, or whatever. I easily as in no, no, no. So the way it works is all your applications have to be online to the company portal, either on LinkedIn or Indeed or Glassdoor. These are some websites where you can find jobs on. You can apply through these websites or on the company portal. So when you get into the job hunt phase, you are going to be more active on your email versus your WhatsApp or Instagram or whatever. So you will have to be on your toes when you apply. You'll have to literally make 10, 15 applications a day, if not more. And out of those, you will get job interviews. So some of these interviews will be on Zoom, and a lot of these interviews, the company sponsors your ticket to fly. For example, if you are living in New York and the company is in California, they will sponsor your ticket to fly to California. They will sponsor your accommodation for 2 to 3 days. Everything will be taken care of. So it's okay. I mean, a lot of people study at one place, find a job somewhere else. Connections help, but you can also find jobs without connections. Connections definitely help because it helps you. You don't have to go through the HR phase if you have connections. Your resume can be directly forwarded to the hiring manager. It helps, and it helped in my case too because and about connections, I would suggest when you go to the US, definitely attend conferences. Definitely socialize as much as you can, even if going to conferences is an expensive deal sometimes because just the registration fee sometimes is 500, 600, or 300, 400, whatever. It's worth the effort. I mean, it's okay. Spend $400 once, and it will pay you up in a month or two. I mean, you're going to earn much more than that. So, एक बार make one trip less or save those 300, $400 somehow by not eating outside, cooking at home, or anyhow, um, attend that conference because that's where you will find connections. And in a lot of cases, the universities fund these conferences. Even if the universities don't fund some universities don't fund them, or your advisor or whoever the person in charge refuses to fund it. I think it's definitely worthwhile to spend that money, especially if you're finding a job. Uh, I had rented a place. I'm renting a place even now in North Carolina, but yeah, they are expensive. But again, that depends on university to university. My university dorms were pretty expensive, and overall, the area in which my university dorm was also not very safe. So I opted to stay out, and I was living about 10 to 15 minute drive from the university. And again, in the US, if you're not staying in New York or Boston, cars are US is not a very public transport friendly country. Um, you will have to buy a car if you are anywhere out. Otherwise, the way it usually works is uh, what students do. Anyway, if it's a master's program, most students are middle class or upper middle class who come from India. They usually have a 30, 40 lakh loan. On top of that, a lot of students, what they do, either they all of three, four students together buy a car, or one student will buy a very, very $2,000 cheap car. And you can find a lot of second-hand cars in America. It's not that hard. I got a second-hand car 8 months into US. I mean, I started in fall of 2017. I've got my car in May of 2018. So 6-8 महीने में मैंने गाड़ी ले ली थी because Texas में there was no public transport. And what worked in my favor also was I had a completely funded program. I had scholarship and everything, and I had no loan from India. So it was easier for me. And I was earning also. I had teaching assistantship then. So it was easy in my situation. But a lot of students also do this. And when you have 30, 40 lakhs ka loan, getting a $2,000 loan on top of that is not hard. So a lot of students do that to just to improve their quality of life. Because see, in Texas, taking a bus to my university was used to take me 1 hour versus driving. I used to reach 10 to 15 minutes. So see amount of time I'm saving. amount of time and energy. So, and a lot of students carpool. So we had a carpool group where I had a car. I would give rides to students and take money from them. ज़्यादा नहीं, $2 per student, but it covered up your gas ka expense and things like that. So yeah, people do that, and वो तो सब जुगाड़ you will have to figure out after going. And being Indian students, you guys will figure out, because you will have fellow Indian students who will be in the same situation. So you will join hands with them and figure out something. You're talking about the student visa? Yeah, I mean, it's a relatively straightforward. Visa is a relatively straightforward process. You make the application, you will have to go through a biometric process, which is fingerprinting, and then an interview stage. The major documents that you will require is financial statement. That is, again, whoever is sponsoring your education, be it your mom, dad, uncle, brother, sister, whoever, you need their, or even if it's self-sponsored, you need documentation to support that. So ideally, you will, after your admission is done, you will receive an admission letter and something called an I-20. I-20, it's a document where it's a document prepared by university in collaboration with the Department of Homeland Security, that is the immigration department in the US. So they give you a document, it's called I-20, and on the I-20 you will have something called as a service ID, which is a number that is specific only to you. And on the document you will have your tuition expenses for 1 year. So say you have your tuition expenses for 1 year are $25,000. Just giving you a hypothetical example. It's ideal to show about $40,000 in your bank account. And if you don't have $40,000 in your bank account, I mean your sponsor's bank account, what you can do is take a loan of say 20 lakhs or 15 or 20 lakhs, whatever, that you can take a call depending on what is the expense. On top of that, show a loan letter to the visa officer. So one question that will always be asked in visa interview more often than not is, how are you planning to sponsor your education? So you can say that, okay, my father, for example, is sponsoring my education. He has so and so amount in his savings account, so and so amount in mutual funds or any other investments that he might have. That you should know. You should be very aware. Make sure you know it. I'm not saying learn it. Even if you know an estimate, it's fine, as long as you're able to say it confidently. No, कोई नहीं check करेगा unless they doubt. And these visa officers are very good body language leaders. So if you don't have money and you're trying to fake, they can catch you. So अगर if you 15 लाख का 12 लाख बोला या 15 लाख का 20 लाख बोला, it's fine. They will not go ahead as long as you're confident and you are not faking. 1 crore नहीं बोलना चाहिए, 15 लाख है अकाउंट में. So things like that, don't fake, and always carry the supporting documents. So you can go to the bank. Bank may you can tell, I need documents for US visa. Most of the banks know. They can give you a summary of everything that is there in your bank account. So they will add up your mutual funds, your stocks, your everything. जहाँ पे भी investment किया है, plus how much is in your savings account, how much is in your savings account. उसका सब addition करके, or any other assets you might have, like gold में investment है, वो तो you will have to do it from a professional valuator. कहीं पे घर है, उसका papers, वो सब carry कर. That is an addition if you have. That will just support your case. But for example, yeah, the bank will give you a statement saying that, okay, you have 40 lakhs in your account, and you have on top of that, you have been approved for a loan of 20 lakhs. You can show that to the visa officer कि इतना इतना पैसा है, and this is good enough. And one thing you also need to show that that this is not the only income you have. Your dad is still working, or your mom is still working, or somebody who sponsored is still working. So there is continuous influx of money for emergency cases. Or you will be working when you go to the US to pay off the loan, or taking up some sort of teaching assistantship or research assistantship, which can help you pay off the loan and manage expenses. I usually suggest you should show anything between 1.5 to 2 times the I-20 amount in your bank. That is safe. मतलब 1.5 to 2 में अगर तुमने दिखाया कि तुम्हारे पास है, there is no way on financial grounds they will reject your visa. And another other thing ties to home country. You have to show that you want to come back by saying things like, I have my parents here, I want to take care of them, or saying that I have a business here, I want to come back and run the business, or saying things like, the pharma company in India is really growing rapidly. I want to take education there and I want to be close to my family and also at the same time grow in my career. You should be able to articulate your answers very confidently. And I understand a lot of people go there to immigrate, uh, but somehow you got to show intent to come back. Other things that will show your intent to come back is if you have a well-traveled passport, if you have multiple stamps or multiple visas on your passport. That is one thing which shows that, okay, you are well-to-do. You can travel countries and come back to India. And even if you don't have, it's fine. I mean, there are a lot of people who visit US for the first time, sit in a plane for the first time when they come. So it's totally okay. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, make sure the university is reputed. That is one thing. Because recently you might have heard students detained at JFK Airport, New York, from specifically students from Hyderabad and some of the South Indian states. That is because, to be very honest, a lot of students just want to leave India, go to the US, and a lot of fake universities out there or low ranking universities out there. It's very easy to get into those universities, but don't do that. Don't go to the US just because you want to leave India. Um, Go because you want to go. And as I'm saying that US is a great country to study, I still love India, to be very honest. And at some point in future, I do want to come back because as US has a lot of pros, there are a lot of cons living in the US as well, which you will realize once you are in your 40s. I feel not when you're young or in your 20s or 30s. So a lot of issues like healthcare system. India has a much better healthcare system, no doubt, hands down. So quality of life, earning potential might be higher, but there are other aspects in America which are not that great. So thinking about, I'm not promoting education in the USA in the sense that go to US, it's great. Yes, it's great. It's excellent for studies. Right now, it's the best country you can be in to study and earn money. But to live in the long run, I'm not quite sure because I have seen experienced things that are better than India. And I travel to India every year. Uh, I, it's been 7 years since I moved to US. I have traveled to India 9 times. So, and I see India changing very, very rapidly. I've seen it change very rapidly in the right direction. So, some things you might want to consider. And America, I would say, is not growing at the pace India is growing. US has reached a stage where it is done growing. So, yeah. Yeah, again, yes, the pollution is low. Currently, the quality of life is good. But there are other issues like safety, hai, healthcare. Hai. In Mumbai, you can freely roam around the streets at 2:30 a.m., 4 a.m. जहाँ भी चाहे जा सकते हैं. US में you may not be able to go. in certain cities again, not everywhere. But Canada has what? Canada has, but Canada is usually considered a second option to US because US definitely has better universities. And over 80% of Canada is inhabitable. You cannot live in Canada because of the weather. You have to consider these things. You cannot just blindly go to some place just because everybody is going, and uh, because these things matter when you go there. You will be homesick. There will be times that you will fall sick and you will have nobody to take care of you. There will be times when, you will go out, you have frozen feet, or it's not easy to live in the cold weather if you haven't lived there. It gets very cold. So you need to consider, you don't want to go there and screw up your health. And then cry because healthcare is not that easily available there. यहाँ पे तुमको सर्दी खांसी हुआ, you can just go down to the doctor, get a few pills and come back, like literally in half an hour. वहाँ पे it's not that easy. So that is when you will start missing India. I'm saying this because it's very important. जब सब अच्छा चल रहा होता है ना, you will not miss India. When things start going down, you will remember the good things that are in India. So, but having said that, definitely go to the US. Man, as somebody who's young, and I'm assuming you guys are in your 20s. So, बहुत experience करने जैसा है. Go there, experience it. Spend your young years, early years there. Lots to travel, lots to see, lot of adventures you can do there, which you cannot do here. So, if you ask me to sum it up, USA is a great country to live in when you're young. Not the best country when you get old. So, I think if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out. I think you can. यहाँ पे भी कोई क्वेश्चन नहीं है. डन हो गया ना.